Dom, when he came to work for me, was wet behind the ears. And those ears have dried up now, I see. He impressed me beyond belief. And he did a fabulous job in Arizona, helping to move the Arizona Medical Board from 27th in the nation in performance and accountability to number 1 in the nation in performance and accountability. I would really call him a brilliant strategist and tactician. And I've never seen him ever meet a person that he just genuinely didn't like and listened to them intently and heard the words that they said. So I think that's part of what makes Dominick so great. I forgave him for getting a Bachelor's of Science degree at Arizona State University. Since my son went to the University of Arizona. However, he also holds a master's in public administration from the American University in Washington, D.C. No moss gathers on this guy's hips. While he was in D.C., he worked for Congressman J. Dennis Hassert, where he assisted with sweeping healthcare reform efforts. And then, as I mentioned, he came to the Arizona Medical Board and did phenomenal things. I even talked him into coming to California and working for me again when I was the executive director for the California Psychological Association. And once again, he did incredible things as our in-house lobbyist and was able to get legislation passed for psychologists that had been stalled in the legislature for almost a decade. So the guy is phenomenal. When he came to California, he unfortunately only worked for me a brief period of time, and quite frankly, when he left, I left. He developed his own consulting firm, DVS Government Consulting Solutions, and was doing a bang-up job, but as you will hear and as you know, his medical condition really forced him into employment that was going to provide him with adequate medical insurance. And so he went to work for the Los Angeles County Medical Association. He also, in all of his spare time that he has, he taught at the University of Phoenix for 6 years, and he was awarded the 2001 Outstanding Faculty Award for the College of Healthcare Services. Dominick, as you will hear and or know, was diagnosed with MMN at the age of 30. Again, there I go. I'm like his mother, you know. I can never quite keep that real professional. I'm always looking out after him. But I recall the times that he would say, Claudia, what's going on here with my hand? You know, I just don't get it. And it was like many of you, he got so many wrong diagnoses before he was ever properly diagnosed with MMN. At one point, once he was finally diagnosed and he realized that there was IVIG, he went to his healthcare provider, which we will appropriately keep unnamed because we've now forgiven them. He had to fight to get his IVIG covered. Because he was a lobbyist and he understood how to bring change to an inflexible insurance situation, he used all of his talents to be able to get the kind of care that he needed so that he could continue to function. And so he got it. But they called him up and said, you know, we've got really good news for you. We're going to cover you. But we want you to keep it a secret because we don't want anybody else to ask us for it. Hence, the Neuropathy Action Foundation was created. And the jig is up and the word is out. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dominick so that I can quit crying and he can tell you about what we've been doing the last year. Come on, Dom. I just realized this isn't a small, intimate group. We're way out there in cyberspace. So welcome, Dominick.
Wow. Claudia, you can stop crying, and I guess I'll start right now. Wow, thank you for the introduction. Claudia is a very special person. She really took a chance on me when I was young, and as she says, wet behind the ears. And everybody should be so lucky in life as to have a mentor like Claudia was to me. She was genuinely like a second mom and the best mentor I could have ever asked for. She's actually been on my board of directors from day one, and today is her last day. She is retiring, and I just want everybody to give her a round of applause. For the past 7 years, I began my presentation with a Margaret Mead quote, and I'm going to start again with the same quote. It's on the top of our website, and it's the very thing that has kept the NAF together and has grown it into an international organization. And the quote is, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." It's because of each of you here today, step by step, one by one, that we are bringing awareness to neuropathy on an international level and helping patients with their neuropathy in awareness, education, and patient empowerment. Every small step each of us takes will ultimately help those suffering from neuropathy and hopefully find a cure someday. Just a few technical thank yous before I get started, but really proud today, as Claudia mentioned, to have this being our first event in cyberspace. We have close to 500 patient registrations today, watching from around the world, which is pretty exciting for us. Also, a very special thanks to our sponsors and exhibitors, for which, without their support, we would not be able to have this maybe made possible today. We also have more sponsors and exhibitors than any prior year, which is absolutely fantastic. Thank you to the speakers, each and every one, for taking time out of their busy schedules, being here today. Thank you to the NAF board members and advisory board members that are here today. Our volunteers, especially Julie and Sarah, who are at the registration desk right now, I would imagine. And one more thing, please bid on silent auction items. There are some great items. It closes at 3 o'clock. Many of you are here free of charge today, which is fantastic and our pleasure. But to do this, any bids would be much, much appreciated on these fantastic items in the back of the room. I always start out, too, by telling my story, only because, not because it's special, but because I think that it helps a lot of people and gives them encouragement and empowerment to fight for their healthcare rights. 11 years ago, I started developing a tremor in my right hand that wouldn't go away. Being a typical guy, it took me about a year before I went to see my doctor to build the courage. Finally did, and was instantly referred to a neurologist. My initial diagnosis, like many, many of us in this room that have MMN, absolutely, it's multifocal motor neuropathy. And you'll hear about it more later today. So I was initially diagnosed, like many patients, with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and I was told that I had 3 to 5 years to live at the age of 30. I'm kind of the type of person that doesn't accept things really easily, so I didn't accept that, went for a second opinion, and I was told that I had to have a ulnar nerve transposition surgery, and they wanted to move my ulnar nerve from one side of my arm to the other side of my arm, which could possibly result in paralysis. Didn't believe that either. Finally, I asked for the best healthcare, the best neurologist in Northern California for my health plan. I was referred to a great neurologist after 3 or 4 months, on top of the 8 or 9 months I already went through of misdiagnoses. I was officially diagnosed with multifocal motor neuropathy, or MMN. Went for a second opinion, was very fortunate to be able to go to Mayo Clinic. They concurred, started on a liquid gold. This medication for me has been a lifesaver, and I've been receiving monthly infusions of it for the past 11 years. I will be for the rest of my life, once a month. And it's called IVIG, which is made by human plasma. This is the point in time where I also want to encourage people to donate plasma. There are many people in this room, at least 7 of us, and 14 people watching worldwide that are receiving IVIG infusions. IVIG is from plasma. It's a scarcity. It's made from your body, right? It's part of your blood. So any opportunity you have, please donate plasma and encourage your loved ones to also donate plasma because it's saving lives and it's helping people function, such as myself. I had been on IVIG for about a year, and I suddenly was unable to get it. This was about 10 years ago. And I was told that I would no longer be able to receive it because of the cost of IVIG. So I fought hard. Luckily, at the time, I had my own business. I had a lot of free time, a lot of flexibility. I was able to make my own schedule. So my full-time job for 3 months became advocating for my rights and fighting my health plan. Being a lobbyist back then, I had some friends. I got Governor Schwarzenegger involved. I got some health chairs involved. And I was successful. I received a letter, as Claudia mentioned, from my health plan, which will be unnamed. It's a very large-scale HMO in California, closed system HMO. And they told me that I would no longer, the letter said, congratulations, we are granting you ongoing treatment of your IVIG. However, please do not discuss this with other patients, for they will not be receiving the same treatment. So I thought about what would people do, like my mom, my loved ones, my family, my friends, if they were in this situation and they don't know elected officials and they don't know people based on what they do for a living. So we created the Neuropathy Action Foundation. And now, 8 years later, we are still staying true to our original mission of patient empowerment, awareness, and education. In the realm of patient empowerment, we're all about advocacy. We're all about advocacy being empowerment, teaching patients to stand up for their rights, teaching patients not to be afraid of their health plans, teaching patients to work with their healthcare provider for what's best for them as an individual patient. We're also about awareness. You know, neuropathy is probably one of the most common diseases that most people have never heard of. Over 20 million Americans suffer from one type of neuropathy or another. There's over 100 different types of neuropathy. The most common, as Dr. Lewis alluded to, diabetic peripheral neuropathy. But we have a lot of other causes of neuropathy and types of neuropathy: chemotherapy medications, HIV medications, alcoholism, traumas, idiopathic, which means there's no known cause, which is my case. I don't have a cause. I'm just one of those lucky ones that developed it. Another issue with neuropathy that we found over the last 8 years is it's not a sexy condition. Therefore, it doesn't receive the funding that other diseases receive. Most people, very seldom will somebody die of a neuropathy, number one. Number two, in many, many cases, as I just mentioned, it's not your primary condition. A lot of times you're dealing with your diabetes, you're trying to control your glucose, you're dealing with your cancer first, and then neuropathy secondary, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not always your primary condition. Education, something I always like to touch on, and we have done a really good job on over the years, is just being there for patients. Once a patient is diagnosed with neuropathy, they're scared. They go through a lot of emotions. They can't even pronounce the word neuropathy, and they're going through tests like Dr. Lewis alluded to: EMGs, MRIs, nerve biopsies, spinal taps, x-rays, blood tests, and then they're misdiagnosed, and they're misdiagnosed again, and then they're finally diagnosed after 3 or 4 diagnoses. So they're afraid, they need help, they need somebody to talk to. It's an unknown disease, so they're worried about the progression. Are they going to end up in a wheelchair? Are they going to lose their ability to walk or to speak? So a lot of fear. There's also a lot of embarrassment. This is where I come in, and this is just speaking from my own experience. Having a condition where I look healthy is extremely problematic. I'm very grateful, and it's fantastic, and I'm blessed. I'm absolutely blessed. But what about when I'm on a plane once or twice a week, and there's a little old lady or a nun in front of me trying to get her luggage up above the overhead? I can't help because I don't have the strength in my right hand. Or when I'm meeting somebody for the first time in my profession and trying to shake their hand, and I can't get my hand wrapped around their hand. Very embarrassing. Tripping, falling, things like that. There's a lot of emotion that neuropathy patients deal with that you don't realize. Because a lot of patients that have a neuropathy, they're blessed, and IVIG is helping them. And IVIG, it makes them whole. I mean, we have some side effects every now and then, but not anything major, nothing that some sleep can't help us with, for the most part. There's also a lot of frustration and anger. Patients ask, why me? Why am I dealing with this? And they get angry with simple daily activities like putting in contact lenses, buttoning cufflinks, computers and typing, eating. I remember a couple years ago we had pasta at this event, and I didn't think of it, but it was like a spaghetti-type pasta. And a patient came up to me afterwards and said, "You of all people, how can you serve pasta? I couldn't eat it." So there's things like that are taken for granted. So that's what we're here for. Those were our original values. We still hold those 8 years later today. And just want to give you a brief background about this past year. This past year, we declared 2014 as the year of multifocal motor neuropathy. We waited 8 years to do this because we didn't want the NAF to seem self-serving, being that, as the founder and the president, that's my exact neuropathy. But we figured 8 years into it, we can finally take on MMN, and we did. Boy, did we. Very quick, just a couple statistics about MMN. It's a very rare disease. It's estimated anywhere from 1 to 2 in 100,000 people, but some say less than 1 in 100,000 as well. It's kind of debatable, are affected by this disease. Men are twice as likely as women to be affected. Most patients tend to be in their 20s to 60s when diagnosed, although there are exceptions. And early diagnosis is key with this condition. The reason it's key is IVIG can treat it if you truly have MMN. And it's very, very important with all the misdiagnoses out there that MMN patients go through to get treated early and diagnosed early. I'm going to show you a video. We partnered with the GBS CIDP Foundation this year, and we created the first ever MMN brochure, which Dr. Lewis and Jonathan Katz wrote. I think Dr. Lewis is here and Dr. Katz is somewhere. And we also created a 60-second PSA that I want to show you quickly and then give you some statistics about where it's been aired so far.
They said I would die.
My doctor told me I had ALS.
They said I wouldn't live to see my kids grow up.
But their doctors were wrong. Multifocal motor neuropathy, referred to as MMN, is a rare disorder that progressively weakens muscles in the extremities and is often mistaken for other serious neuropathies, as well as the ultimately fatal condition known as ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. But unlike those disorders, MMN affects only lower motor nerves and has no sensory involvement. Symptoms tend to be asymmetric and characterized by weakness, cramping, twitching, or muscle atrophy, usually beginning in the hands. Disease progression depends on the length of time the patient remains without the correct MMN diagnosis. With early diagnosis and treatment, most MMN patients continue doing the things they enjoy.
Cooking.
Gardening.
Spending time with my family.
For more information, please visit these websites.
So, we invested a lot of resources into getting this filmed nationwide. And so far, year to date, it's been aired in 31 states, 73 cities. It's been played on TV 7,620 times with a $3.4 million value of exposure. We also partnered with an organization, actually a company in Chicago, called Context Media Health, who has TV screens in physician offices throughout the US, 4,500 physician offices and hospitals. And they claim that it's been being viewed by over 3 million patients a month, which is pretty fantastic. Most importantly, though, we have doubled the amount of patients in our database. Before we started this campaign, we had about 16 or 17 patients in our database with MMN, and we just reached the 50 patient mark a month ago. We have over 50 patients right now in our database. Final thought is, number one, donate plasma. Number two, bid on silent auction items until 3 o'clock. And just thank you for being here today. To all of those that are here in person, as well as those in cyberspace that are live streaming and watching from their homes, we hope you're with us for the next 7 years as well and continue to make a difference and make Margaret Mead proud one by one. So thank you for being here.